Another year is on the horizon, a collection of 365 new days, a fresh ledger of 8,760 hours, a silent offering of 525,600 minutes. Time, in its relentless and impartial march, presents us with this gift year after year. For most of the world, this turning of the calendar page is a fleeting moment of celebration, a brief, hopeful toast to new beginnings, followed by a slow, familiar, and almost unconscious return to the same routines, the same frustrations, the same quiet questions that echo in the moments before sleep. The year will come and the year will go. And at the end of it, a vast number of people will find themselves standing in much the same place they are today, only 1 year older. They are adrift in the great river of life. The current of circumstance, of societal expectation, of daily habit carries them along. They may complain about the occasional rocks they hit, or the speed of the current, or the coldness of the water, but it rarely occurs to them that they have a choice other than to be carried. They have forgotten that they have the capacity to learn to swim, to build a raft, and most importantly, to pick up a paddle and steer. But for a select few, the arrival of a new year is not just a passage of time. It is a profound and sacred event. It is a conscious decision. It is the drawing of a sharp, clear line in the sand of their own history. It is the moment they decide to stop being a passive passenger on the journey of life and to finally claim their rightful role as its chief architect. The question I have for you today is not trivial. It is the question upon which the entire quality of your future rests. Will you continue to be a drifter on the river of chance, or will you become the architect of a life by choice? Welcome. I am deeply glad you are here. The fact that you are present, that you have chosen to invest these precious moments, tells me that you are one of the few. It tells me you hear a whisper that others have ignored, a whisper that insists that life can be more than a series of reactions, a whisper that believes you were meant to build something magnificent. Today, we are not going to discuss fleeting resolutions or temporary fixes. Temporary fixes lead to temporary results. Today, we embark on a more serious, more permanent endeavor. We are here to lay down the foundational blueprint for a year and a life of profound success, growth, and fulfillment. Over the course of our time together, we will explore 9 fundamental commitments you must make to yourself. These are not just good ideas. They are not motivational platitudes. They are the structural pillars of a well-lived life. They are the unwritten laws that govern the space between where you are and where you are capable of going. If you build them with care and consistency, they will support the construction of your greatest ambitions. But before we can lay the first pillar, we must first understand the ground on which we are building. We must conduct an honest diagnosis of the default state of existence, the life of the drifter. The drifter's life is seductive because it feels easy. It is the path of least resistance. It is a life lived on autopilot. The drifter wakes up and immediately reacts to the world. They react to their phone. They react to their email inbox, which is nothing more than a convenient organizing system for other people's priorities. They react to the news. They react to the demands of their boss, their colleagues, their family. Their day is a tapestry woven not by their own intentions, but by the random threads of external requests. The drifter is perpetually busy, but rarely productive. They mistake motion for progress. They run on the treadmill of their to-do list, putting in hours of effort, only to find themselves, at the end of the day, mentally and spiritually, in the exact same spot. This leads to a unique and quiet form of modern suffering, the feeling of being exhausted and unfulfilled at the same time. The language of the drifter is the language of someday. Someday I'll start that business. Someday I'll get in shape. Someday I'll write that book. Someday is a mythical island in a sea of procrastination where dreams are sent to live out a comfortable but ultimately tragic retirement. The drifter's philosophy is one of external cause. They are a victim of circumstances. They blame the wind. The economy is bad. My boss is unfair. I don't have the right connections. I wasn't born with the right talents. This philosophy, while offering the temporary comfort of absolving them of responsibility, is a life sentence in a prison of powerlessness. Does any of this feel familiar? The Sunday evening anxiety, the feeling of being busy but not moving forward, the reliance on the word someday. The subtle but persistent feeling that you are living a life that is smaller than the one you are capable of? If it does, then today is your awakening. Today is the day you hear the call of the architect. The architect operates from a completely different philosophy. The architect understands the most liberating and terrifying truth of the human experience. I am responsible. The architect understands that while they cannot control the wind, they are 100% responsible for the set of their sail. They understand that their life is not a product of their circumstances, but a product of their choices, their habits, and their commitments. This shift from drifter to architect does not happen by accident. It happens with a decision. Not a preference, not a wish, but a true decision. The root of the word decision means to cut off. To make a true decision is to cut off all other possibilities. It is the decision that the old way of living is no longer an option. It is the decision to burn the boats, to abandon the comfortable shore of mediocrity and default, and to commit fully to the adventure of building a new world. That is the decision that is on the table for you today. The decision to pick up the tools of the architect. What are these tools? They are the very commitments we are here to discuss. The architect understands that before you can build, you must first have a blueprint, a clear, ambitious vision of what you are constructing. This is why our first commitment will be to the art and science of setting goals that will make something of you. The architect understands that the person they are today does not yet possess all the skills to build their grand vision. So, they must be a lifelong learner, constantly upgrading their abilities. This is why we will commit to the discipline of lifelong self-education. The architect knows that the construction site of life is filled with unpredictable challenges. Storms will come, the ground will be difficult, there will be setbacks. Therefore, the architect must cultivate the mindset of courage and resilience. The architect knows that their most precious, non-renewable resources are their time and their health. They must learn to manage and protect them with fierce intention, for they are the very energy and material with which they build. The architect knows that the quality of their work is determined by their daily habits. They must therefore become a master of discipline and consistency, the engine that transforms the blueprint into a physical reality. And the architect knows they must control the building site. They must protect it from vandals and saboteurs, both external and internal. They must learn to eliminate toxic influences and to let go of the rubble of the past that clutters the foundation. This is the work that is before us. It is not a set of tips for a slightly better year. It is a blueprint for a completely new existence. An existence where you are in the driver's seat. An existence where your days are a reflection of your deepest values. An existence where you wake up with a sense of profound purpose and go to bed with a sense of deep fulfillment. This is your invitation. An invitation to stop drifting and start designing. An invitation to trade the deceptive comfort of the river's current for the profound satisfaction of steering your own ship. An invitation to leave the spectator seats and to step onto the field of your own life. The knowledge we are about to explore is powerful, but knowledge alone is not enough. It is the application of that knowledge that creates the miracle. So I encourage you, do not approach this as a passive listener. Engage with this material. Take notes. When a question is asked, pause and answer it with ruthless honesty. This is your time. This is your life. The contract on your potential is waiting for your signature. Let us together pick up the pen and begin the magnificent work of becoming the architect of your soul. We now stand at the true beginning of our work. We have made the profound decision to shift from being a passive drifter on the river of life to becoming its active architect. We have accepted the awesome responsibility that comes with the pen and the blank page of our own future. An architect, before laying a single stone, before mixing any mortar, must first engage in the most crucial act of creation. They must have a vision. They must have a blueprint. This is where the work begins for us. Our first commitment, the foundational pillar that gives meaning and direction to all the others, is the commitment to set goals that will make something of you. Let us start by dismantling a great and common misunderstanding. Most of the world believes that the purpose of setting a goal is to get something, to acquire the car, to achieve the income, to attain the title, to buy the house. And these are perfectly acceptable ambitions. But they are, and I must be clear about this, the lesser purpose of a goal. They are the byproducts. the external symbols of an internal victory. If you believe the goal is only about the getting, you will miss the entire point. The major, primary, and life-altering purpose of setting a truly ambitious goal is not what it gets you. It is the person it requires you to become to achieve it. That is the great secret. The ultimate prize is not the destination, it is the growth you experience on the journey. It is in the courage you must develop to face the fears that stand in your way. It is in the discipline you must forge from the raw material of your daily habits. It is in the new skills you must learn, the knowledge you must acquire, the resilience you must earn every time you get back up from a fall. It is the character that is forged in the fire of your ambition. This person you become in the process, this stronger, wiser, more capable version of yourself, that is the true treasure. That is the victory that once won can never be taken away from you. With this philosophy in mind, the entire nature of goal setting changes. It ceases to be a chore and becomes an exciting curriculum for your own evolution. So when you think about your goals for this coming year, I challenge you, dare to be ambitious. Do not set safe, comfortable, realistic goals. A safe goal does not demand that you grow. It allows the person you are today to achieve it, and therefore you remain the person you are today. An ambitious goal, a goal that stretches you, a goal that makes your hands sweat just a little when you write it down, that is a goal worthy of your potential. That is a goal that sends a signal to your subconscious mind and to the universe that you are no longer willing to play a small game. It is the ambitious goal that calls forth the giant that has been sleeping within you. Now, let us move from philosophy to practice. How does an architect create an effective blueprint? The first rule is this: you must write your goals down. A goal that is left to float around in your mind is not a goal. It is a wish. It is a daydream. It is a wisp of smoke that vanishes with the first gust of real-world difficulty. The moment you take a thought and translate it into a physical word on a piece of paper, you give it substance. You make it real. You take it from the world of imagination and bring it into the world of creation. The act of writing is the first step of commitment. It is the signing of a contract with your future self. The second rule is clarity. Vague goals produce vague results. It is a law of the universe. I want to be more successful is not a goal. It is a sentiment. What does success mean to you? I want to be healthier is not a goal. It is a nice idea. The architect deals in specifics. How much more successful? By what metric? I will increase my personal income by 30% this year. That is a goal. I will lose 20 pounds and complete my first 5K race by September. That is a goal. It is clear. It is measurable. It provides a distinct target for your mind to lock onto. Your mind is a powerful goal-seeking mechanism, but it cannot hit a target that you have not clearly defined. The third rule is to set a deadline. A goal without a deadline is a dream that will be perpetually deferred to someday. A deadline creates a sense of urgency. It creates a container for your effort. It forces you to get serious. Some goals will be for 1 year, some for 5, some for 10, others for the next 90 days. The timeline is less important than the existence of the timeline itself. It is the ticking clock that reminds you that your time is finite and your potential is waiting to be expressed. Now, once you have your clear, written, time-bound goals, you must engage in the work of the plan. A goal without a plan is the foundation of frustration. A grand, ambitious goal can feel overwhelming. The key is not to be intimidated by the size of the cathedral, but to focus on the process of laying a single brick. You must break your grand goals down. If your goal is to write a book in 1 year, that can feel impossible. But what if you break it down? A 60,000-word book is about 5,000 words a month. That's about 1,250 words a week. That's less than 200 words a day. Can you write 200 words a day? Of course you can. You have just transformed an overwhelming dream into a simple, daily, manageable discipline. This is how all great things are built, not in a single burst of genius, but through the patient, daily application of a plan. To create a truly comprehensive blueprint, I encourage you to set goals in 4 key dimensions of life. A life of design is not just about a successful career. It is about a rich, balanced, and fulfilling existence. The first dimension is your economic and professional life. This is your career, your business, your finances. What do you want to achieve? What skills do you need to master? What income level will provide you with the freedom and choices you desire? The second dimension is your personal development. This is about the person you want to become. What character traits do you want to strengthen? Do you want to become more patient, more courageous, more compassionate? What skills do you want to learn for the sheer joy of it? A new language, a musical instrument. The third dimension is your health and wellness, your vitality. What are your goals for your physical energy, your strength, your mental clarity? Your health is the platform upon which all other achievements are built. And the fourth dimension is your relationships and contribution. This is about your family, your friends, your community. What kind of parent, partner, or friend do you want to be? What legacy of contribution do you want to leave behind? When you have goals in all four of these areas, you create a blueprint for a life that is not just successful, but is also deeply meaningful. Now, as you embark on this journey, you must understand how this first commitment, the commitment to your goals, provides the essential why for all the other commitments to follow. Once you have an ambitious goal, you will quickly see that you must commit to lifelong self-education because your goal demands a wiser, more skilled version of you. You will see that you must face challenges with courage because your goal will inevitably lead you into uncharted territory. You will see that you must master your time because your goal is too important to be squandered on distractions. You will see that you must master discipline and consistency because your goal will not build itself. It demands your daily focused effort. Your goals are the central sun around which all the other commitments orbit. They give a gravitational pull to your good intentions, turning them into a powerful, aligned system for living. The journey will test you. Of course, it will. That is its purpose. There will be days of doubt. There will be moments of frustration. There will be setbacks. This is where you must remember the true prize. Even if you fall short of your most audacious goal, look at the person you have become in the attempt. Look at the skills you've learned. Look at the discipline you've forged. You have already won the most important victory. So the invitation today is a simple but profound one. After this, find a quiet space. Take out a clean sheet of paper or open a new document and begin the sacred act of writing down what you want for your life. Do not be timid. Do not be constrained by what you think is realistic based on your past. Your past is not your potential. Give yourself the gift of a magnificent obsession, a compelling future that pulls you forward. This act of writing down your goals is the first definitive and most powerful act of the architect. It is the moment you stop drifting and start designing. It is the moment your future begins. In our last discussion, we engaged in the sacred act of creation. We took the formless wishes of our hearts and forged them into the clear, written, ambitious goals of an architect. We have created the blueprint. We have defined the destination. And in doing so, we are immediately confronted with a profound and humbling gap. The gap between the person we are today and the person we must become to achieve those goals. An ambitious goal is, by its very nature, beyond your current reach. If it were not, it would not be a worthy goal. It is this very gap that gives the goal its true power, for it is within this gap that all human growth occurs. This brings us to our second and profoundly empowering commitment. It is the commitment that provides the strategy for bridging that gap. It is the work of personal evolution. You must commit to lifelong self-education. Let us begin by dismantling a great cultural deception. It is the myth of graduation. We are taught to see education as a finite phase of our lives, a period of 12 or 16 years that culminates in a ceremony and a piece of paper. We are led to believe that on that day our education is complete. This is a catastrophic misunderstanding. That piece of paper is not a certificate of completion. It is a learner's permit for the real world. The day your formal schooling ends is the day your true education must begin. And here lies one of the most important distinctions you will ever learn. Formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. Your formal education is essential. It provides you with a foundation. It teaches you the alphabet and the basic grammar of your chosen field. It gets you in the door. But it is the work you do on yourself after the last bell has rung that will determine the trajectory of your entire life. Self-education is what you do with that alphabet. It is where you move beyond the textbook and begin to write your own story. It is where you develop your unique voice, your unique combination of skills, your irreplaceable value. The fortune we speak of is not just a financial one, though, that is often a result. It is a fortune of wisdom, of character, of resilience, of a life rich with understanding and capability. In the 20th century, you could learn a trade, and that knowledge might last you a lifetime. In the 21st century, the world is changing at a breathtaking pace. Knowledge becomes obsolete. Skills become automated. To stand still in this environment is not just to be stagnant, it is to be moving backward at an accelerating speed. Lifelong learning is no longer just an advantage for the ambitious, it is a fundamental requirement for survival and relevance. The architect of a designed life embraces this. They do not see learning as a chore, they see it as the most exciting part of the human adventure. They adopt the identity of an autodidact, a self-teacher. They take full responsibility for their own learning curve forever. So, what does this commitment look like in practice? How do we engage in this noble pursuit? The work of self-education can be broken down into 4 distinct disciplines. The first is the discipline of consumption. You are what you eat, and your mind is what you feed it. The drifter consumes information passively and randomly. The architect is a conscious, strategic curator of their mental diet. This begins with the timeless practice of reading. In an age of 15-second videos and 280-character thoughts, the book is a revolutionary act. A book is not just information, it is a structured, long-form argument. It demands deep focus. It forces you to wrestle with complex ideas, to see the world through another's eyes, and to expand your own capacity for thought. A great book is a conversation with a master. To neglect reading is to choose to be mentored only by your immediate and often limited surroundings. Build a personal library. Let it be your sanctuary and your university. The second part of consumption is listening. Turn your net time, your no extra time spent commuting, doing chores, or at the gym into a university on wheels. With audiobooks and educational podcasts, you can gain the equivalent of a college education in a few years just by leveraging the time you were already spending. The third part of consumption is observing. Become a student of life. Learn from everyone and everything. Study the successes of others, not with envy, but with curiosity. Study their failures, not with judgment, but for the lessons they provide. Every person you meet knows something you don't. The humble and curious student can find a teacher anywhere. The second discipline is the discipline of application. Knowledge that is not used is a useless burden. The gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it is where most potential dies. You must build a bridge across this gap. The most effective way to learn is to apply. Do not just learn for the sake of learning. Learn with the intention of creating something. Take on a project that forces you to use the new skill you are acquiring. If you are learning to code, build a simple application. If you are learning about marketing, volunteer to help a local business. The struggle of applying knowledge in the real world is what forges it into a true skill. Practice the 1% rule. After reading a chapter or listening to a podcast, don't try to implement everything. Just find one idea, one small nugget of wisdom, and apply it that very day. Small, consistent application is infinitely more powerful than massive, infrequent consumption. The third discipline is the discipline of reflection. It is not experience that is the best teacher, it is evaluated experience. If you do not pause to digest your experiences, the wisdom within them is lost. This is the profound power of keeping a journal. A journal is not a diary of your daily activities, it is your personal strategy room. It is a place to have a conversation with yourself. At the end of each day or each week, pause and reflect on a few simple, powerful questions. What went well and why? So you can understand and repeat your successes. What went wrong and why? So you can learn from your mistakes and not repeat them. And the most important question, based on this, what will I do differently tomorrow? This simple act of reflection is what separates a life of conscious evolution from a life of repeating the same patterns. It is the process of turning your experience into wisdom. The fourth discipline, and the ultimate form of learning, is the discipline of teaching. When you learn something with the intention of explaining it to someone else, you are forced to understand it at a much deeper, more fundamental level. The act of teaching solidifies your own knowledge. You do not need a formal classroom. Share what you learn with a friend, a colleague, a child. Write about it. Create a small presentation. In teaching, you learn twice. It is the final step in closing the loop from consumption to true mastery. Underpinning these four disciplines is an essential internal shift, the mindset of the autodidact. This is about who you are being, not just what you are doing. It is a mindset of curiosity over certainty. The person who thinks they have all the answers is closed to growth. The wise person is not the one with the best answers, but the one with the best questions. Cultivate a childlike wonder about the world. It is a mindset of humility, the understanding that the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know. This keeps you open, teachable, and ready for the next lesson. And it is, of course, the growth mindset. The core belief that your abilities, your intelligence, your talents are not fixed traits, but are skills that can be developed through dedication, effort, and strategy. You see, this commitment to lifelong self-education is the bridge that connects your ambitious goals to your future reality. And it is the very preparation you need for our next commitment. It is the act of forging your intellectual and psychological armor before you go into battle. The knowledge you gain, the skills you develop, are what will give you the competence and the confidence to face challenges with courage. So the invitation of this pillar is to see yourself not as a finished product, but as a magnificent work in progress. You are both the sculptor and the marble. Every book you read, every skill you practice, every lesson you reflect upon is another strike of the chisel, revealing more of the masterpiece that lies within. My challenge to you is this: what is the one book you know you should read? What is the one skill you know you should learn? What is the one subject that sparks your curiosity? Choose one and take the first small step today, not tomorrow, not when you have more time, today. Go to the library, enroll in the online course, watch the first tutorial. That is the first act of the lifelong student. That is the first investment in the only asset that will grow for the rest of your life, you. In our work together thus far, we have laid the first two critical cornerstones of a life by design. We have committed to setting ambitious goals that will demand we grow, and we have committed to the practice of lifelong self-education to become the person capable of that growth. We have drawn the blueprint. We have begun to gather the tools and the knowledge. This is the work of preparation. But preparation is not the journey itself. It is the sharpening of the sword before the battle. Now, we must talk about the battle, because the moment you set a worthy goal, the moment you commit to becoming more than you are, you send a signal to the universe, and the universe will respond. It will respond with a test. Life will ask you with undeniable clarity, how serious are you about this? And its question will not come in the form of words, it will come in the form of a challenge. This brings us to our third and perhaps most defining commitment. It is the commitment that forges character in the fires of adversity. You must learn to face challenges with courage. Let us begin by establishing a new philosophy of challenges themselves. The drifter, the person living by default, sees a challenge as a sign to stop. They see it as an injustice, a roadblock, a cruel twist of fate. They say, just my luck, and they retreat back to the deceptive safety of what is familiar. The architect of a designed life sees a challenge in a completely different light. The architect understands that challenges are not obstacles on the path. Challenges are the path. A life without challenges is a life of stagnation. A goal without challenges is not a worthy goal. The challenge is the very thing that creates the value. The difficulty is what makes the achievement meaningful. Challenges are not a punishment for your ambition, they are a confirmation of it. Before we can speak of courage, we must first look its counterpart in the eye. We must dissect the anatomy of fear. Fear is not your enemy. It is a primal, biological survival mechanism. Its only job is to keep you safe, to keep you alive, to keep you within the known boundaries of the tribe. It is a loyal, if somewhat overzealous, advisor. The problem in our modern world is that this ancient wiring, which was designed to protect us from predators on the savannah, now activates in response to perceived social, emotional, and financial threats. The feeling of fear itself is not the problem. The problem is our reaction to it. The drifter allows the feeling of fear to be a command. Stop, retreat, be safe. The architect learns to hear the feeling of fear as a simple notification. Attention, you are now approaching the edge of your comfort zone. Growth is imminent. This fear that holds us back typically manifests in three primary forms. First, there is the fear of failure, the fear of trying and not succeeding, the fear of looking foolish. We have been conditioned to believe that failure is a verdict on our worth. This is the ghost of the red F on our school papers. Second, there is the fear of rejection and judgment, the fear of what they will think. This is the ancient tribal fear. To be cast out of the group once meant death. Today, it means disapproval, criticism, or ridicule. This fear keeps us from speaking our truth, from launching our unique idea, from being our authentic selves. And third, there is the fear of the unknown, the fear of uncertainty. The comfort zone is, above all else, predictable. To pursue a great goal is to step into a fog. We cannot see the entire path. This uncertainty is terrifying to the part of our brain that craves safety and predictability. These three fears form the dragon that guards the treasure of your potential. To get to the treasure, you must face the dragon. This is the work of courage. So, let us now redefine courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. A person who feels no fear is not courageous. They are a fool. They are disconnected from reality. Courage is the conscious and deliberate choice to act in spite of fear. It is feeling the tremble in your hands, the knot in your stomach, and taking the necessary step forward anyway. Why? Because you have made the judgment that your commitment to your goal, to your purpose, to the person you are becoming, is more important than your temporary feeling of fear. Courage, like discipline, is not a trait you are born with. It is a muscle, and it is built through repetition. It is built through small acts of bravery. Each time you raise your hand to ask a question when you are afraid of looking stupid, you do a rep for your courage muscle. Each time you make the sales call you are afraid to make, you do a rep. Each time you have the honest conversation you have been avoiding, you do a rep. You do not start by slaying the largest dragon. You start by facing the small lizards in your daily life. It is the accumulation of these small acts of courage that builds the strength to face the great challenges of your life. Where does this courage come from? It is fueled by two preceding commitments. It is fueled by the clarity of your goals. A powerful why can withstand almost any how. When your purpose is clear and compelling, it provides the emotional leverage to push through the wall of fear. And it is fueled by your commitment to self-education. Competence breeds confidence. The more you learn, the more skilled you become, the more capable you feel, and the smaller the fear appears. Now let us move to the practical application. How does the architect face challenges? They employ a toolkit of philosophical and strategic instruments. The first tool is the reframe. The architect does not allow their mind to dwell on the negative interpretation of an event. They consciously choose a more empowering one. They do not see a problem. They see a project. They do not see a setback. They see a setup for a comeback. They do not see an obstacle. They see a detour onto a more educational path. This is not a trick of language. It is a fundamental shift in perception that changes your entire emotional and creative response to the situation. The second tool is the breakdown strategy. A great challenge, viewed in its entirety, is often paralyzing. The mind freezes. The secret is to stop looking at the mountain and to focus only on the single, smallest possible step you can take right now. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you climb Mount Everest? One step at a time. Do not ask, how will I solve this entire crisis? Ask, what is the one simple, productive action I can take in the next 10 minutes? Is it an email, a phone call, a quick search for information, take that one action. That action creates momentum, and momentum is the antidote to paralysis. The third tool is the power of proactivity. The drifter reacts to challenges when they appear. The architect anticipates them. Spend a small amount of your planning time not just on your ideal path, but on potential obstacles. Ask yourself, what could go wrong here? And if that happens, what would be my response? This is not a negative exercise. It is an act of profound confidence building. When you have a contingency plan, you strip the unknown of its power to terrorize you. You walk into the challenge knowing that you have already considered and prepared for the most likely difficulties. The fourth tool is the law of resilience. The architect understands that resilience is not about being unbreakable. It is about being anti-fragile. It is about becoming stronger because you were broken. It is about understanding that you will fall, and that the true measure of your character is not in the falling, but in the getting back up. Every time you face a challenge and endure, you are building your bounce-back muscle. You are teaching your nervous system that you can handle stress and recover. Over time, you build a deep, unshakable confidence that no matter what life throws at you, you will find a way to handle it. You see, this commitment is where your philosophy is truly forged. It is where your self-education is put to the test. And it is this commitment that reveals the absolute necessity of our next pillar. To consistently face down challenges, to solve complex problems, to maintain your courage under fire, you must be in complete control of your most valuable, non-renewable resource. You cannot afford to waste it. This brings us to the urgent need to become the master of your time. So the invitation of this pillar is a profound one. It is to stop praying for an easy life. An easy life does not produce great people. Instead, pray for the strength to endure a difficult one. Do not wish for fewer problems. Wish for more skills. Do not wish for less challenge. Wish for more wisdom. The obstacles on your path are not in the way of your life. They are your life. The person you become is forged in the crucible of your challenges. The goal is not to arrive at a destination free of problems. The goal is to become the person who is worthy of solving bigger, more interesting, and more meaningful problems. So my challenge to you is this. Identify one fear, one challenge in your life that you have been avoiding. And then identify the single smallest possible step you can take today to face it. That step is your workout. That is your rep for the courage muscle. Take it. And you will have begun the great work of becoming unstoppable. In our last discussion, we stood face to face with the inevitable reality of the architect's journey, the challenge. We committed to facing the dragons of fear, uncertainty, and adversity with courage. We learned that the obstacle is not in the way, the obstacle is the way. To face these challenges, to learn from them, to build our cathedral of purpose brick by brick, requires the investment of our single most precious, non-renewable, and irretrievable resource. It is the raw material from which all of life is crafted. This brings us to our fourth and profoundly practical commitment. It is the commitment that governs the very fabric of our days. You must become the master of your time. Let us begin with a thought experiment. Imagine that every single morning a bank deposits $86,400 into your account. You can spend it however you wish. But there are two rules. First, whatever you don't spend by the end of the day is gone forever. It does not roll over. Second, you cannot know for certain how many days the bank will continue to make this deposit. How would you treat that money? Would you squander it carelessly? Would you let others dictate how you spend it? Or would you plan every single dollar with meticulous intention, ensuring that each one was invested in a way that brought you maximum value and joy? Of course, you would treat it as the incredible treasure it is. Well, this is not a fantasy. Every morning, the Bank of Life deposits 86,400 seconds into your account. And the same rules apply. Whatever you do not invest in your purpose, your growth, or your well-being by midnight is lost forever. And you have no guarantee of a deposit tomorrow. This is the reality of time. It is infinitely more valuable than money. You can always earn more money, but you can never, ever earn more. The drifter, the person living by default, treats this daily treasure with casual disregard. The architect of a designed life treats it with the reverence and strategic focus it deserves. Before we can master our time, we must first diagnose why we lose it. We must understand the great time deceptions that plague modern life. The first is the tyranny of the urgent. Our lives are filled with a constant stream of notifications, emails, requests, and minor crises that all scream for our immediate attention. They are urgent, but they are rarely important. The important tasks are the ones that move us closer to our great goals, the ones that align with our deepest values. They are often quiet, they do not scream, they require us to seek them out with intention. The drifter spends their entire life as a firefighter, rushing from one urgent, minor fire to the next, while their great cathedral of purpose sits unbuilt. The second deception is the myth of finding time. How often have you heard someone say, or said yourself, "I'll do that when I find the time"? This is a profound fallacy. No one ever finds time. Time is not a lost object you stumble upon. Time is made. It is created through conscious, deliberate allocation. The architect does not find time for their priorities. They make time for their priorities, and the less important things must find their place in the time that is left over. The third deception is the illusion of productivity. We have come to confuse activity with accomplishment. Being busy has become a badge of honor, but a rocking horse is in constant motion, yet it makes no progress. Are you busy or are you effective? Are you in motion or are you making progress? The architect is not interested in being busy. They are interested in being effective. They care about results, not the appearance of effort. To escape these deceptions, we must adopt a new philosophy of time. The first principle of this new philosophy is, run the day or the day will run you. You must make a choice the moment you wake up. Will you be proactive or reactive? Will you operate from a plan or will you operate from your inbox? The architect understands that the first hour of the day dictates the quality of the next 23. They begin their day with intention, with a plan, seizing control before the world has a chance to impose its own agenda. The second principle is, spend major time on major things. Life is a constant battle between major priorities and minor distractions. A major priority is an activity that, if done consistently, will have a massive positive impact on your long-term goals. Reading a book on your craft, having a deep conversation with your partner, working on your most important project. A minor distraction is a low-value task that consumes time but produces little of consequence. Mindless scrolling on social media, engaging in gossip, arguing over trivialities. The great tragedy of the drifter's life is that they spend major time on minor things. The defining characteristic of the architect's life is that they spend the majority of their time on the majors. So, how do we put this philosophy into practice? We use the tools of the master. The first tool is the art of the plan. A life without a plan is a life of improvisation in the face of chaos. The most powerful act of time mastery is to spend 15 minutes the night before in the quiet to map out your next day. Identify your vital few. Using the 80/20 principle, identify the 20% of your tasks that will deliver 80% of your results. Choose the 1, 2, or at most 3 most important things you must accomplish tomorrow. These are your majors. Write them down. This simple act sets your subconscious mind to work on them while you sleep and allows you to wake up with clarity, not confusion. The second tool is the power of time blocking. A simple to-do list is a good start, but it is passive. Time blocking is active. It is the act of assigning a specific mission to a specific block of time on your calendar. You don't just have work on report on your list. You have a 90-minute block on your calendar from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. that says deep work. Draft section 1 of Q3 report. You treat this appointment with the same seriousness you would an appointment with a doctor or your most important client. During this block, you do nothing else. No email, no phone, no distractions. This is how you defeat multitasking and engage in the deep, focused work where all high-quality results are born. The third and most critical tool is protecting your prime time. Each of us has a 2 to 4 hour window each day where our mental energy is at its absolute peak. For some, It is early in the morning, for others, late at night. The architect's most important strategic decision is to identify their personal prime time and then to guard it with their life. This is your golden time. It is when you are most creative, most focused, and most capable. You must dedicate your prime time to your most important high-value work, your majors. The drifter gives their prime time away to minor things, answering emails, attending pointless meetings, scrolling through feeds. This is a tragic waste of potential. Protect your best hours for your best opportunities. You see, this commitment to mastering your time is the very framework that allows you to face your challenges with the resources required. A challenge that seems overwhelming becomes manageable when you can dedicate focused, high-energy blocks of time to breaking it down and solving it. And this brings us to the next inescapable conclusion. A perfectly designed schedule is useless if the architect is too exhausted or too ill to execute it. Your best laid plans for your time are utterly dependent on the physical and mental energy you bring to those hours. This is why our next commitment must be to the very source of that energy, prioritizing your health. The mastery of time is not about becoming a robot devoid of spontaneity. It is the opposite. When you control your time, when you know that you have invested your moments wisely in your most important work, you create true freedom. The freedom to be fully present with your family in the evening without the nagging guilt of a procrastinated task. The freedom to rest and recover, knowing it is a strategic part of your plan. So my challenge to you is this. Tonight, before you sleep, take out a piece of paper. Do not plan your whole week or your whole life. Just plan tomorrow. Identify your top 3 majors. Decide when you will work on them. This small act is the first step in a revolution. It is the first declaration of your sovereignty over your own life. It is the first time you tell your day where to go instead of asking where it went. Your 86,400 seconds are waiting. Invest them wisely. In our last discussion, we confronted the great flowing river of time. We made the commitment to become its master, to exchange the frantic reactivity of the drifter for the calm, intentional proactivity of the architect. We learned to plan our days, to protect our focus, and to invest our 86,400 seconds with strategic wisdom. But a perfectly designed schedule, a masterful plan for your time, is only a blueprint. To bring it to life, to execute that plan with energy and excellence, requires a well-functioning instrument. Imagine being gifted the world's most magnificent violin, a Stradivarius of unparalleled potential. And imagine being given a breathtaking musical score, the symphony of your life's greatest ambitions. What a gift. But what if you were to store that priceless instrument in a damp basement with frayed strings and a warped frame? What kind of music could you possibly produce? You are the musician, your life is the symphony, and your body and your mind are your Stradivarius. They are the one and only instrument you will ever be given to play your masterpiece. This brings us to our 5th and most foundational commitment. It is the commitment that underpins your ability to execute all others. You must prioritize your physical and mental health. We must begin by dismantling a deeply flawed philosophy of our modern world, the myth of the mind-body split. We are taught to treat our body as a beast of burden, a mere vehicle to carry our head from meeting to meeting. And we are taught to treat our mind as a disembodied commander that should be able to push through any obstacle with sheer willpower. This is a profound error. Your mind and body are not 2 separate entities. They are one deeply integrated, miraculous system. The state of one profoundly and immediately affects the state of the other. To neglect one is to sabotage both. The architect of a designed life does not see their health as another goal on a to-do list. They see it as the very platform upon which their entire life is built. Let us first address the physical foundation. Let us talk about the body as your energy factory. All of your ambitions, your goals, your discipline, your courage run on a single vital currency, energy. Time is the track you run on, but energy is your ability to run. A person with boundless energy in only a few hours can achieve more than a person with all the time in the world and no energy at all. The architect, therefore, must become a master of energy cultivation. This rests on 3 pillars of vitality. The first is fuel. We must stop thinking about food as entertainment or as a response to emotional cues and start seeing it for what it is, the raw material that fuels your biological engine. The quality of your thoughts, your mood, your focus, and your stamina are all directly linked to the quality of the fuel you put into your system. To expect a world-class performance from your brain and body while fueling it with low-grade processed sugary foods is like expecting a Formula One racing car to win a Grand Prix with sludge in its gas tank. It is an absurdity. Prioritizing your health means choosing high-performance fuel. It means choosing the vibrant colors of fruits and vegetables, the clean power of lean proteins, and the brain-boosting capacity of healthy fats. It means making hydration a non-negotiable ritual. It is not about a restrictive diet. It is about a conscious, respectful partnership with your body, providing it with the materials it needs to serve your grandest ambitions. Every meal is a strategic choice. The second pillar of vitality is movement. Our bodies were designed for motion. A sedentary life is a direct contradiction to millions of years of evolution. We have come to see exercise as a chore, a punishment for what we ate. This is a tragic misunderstanding. Movement is not a chore. It is a catalyst. It is the most potent tool we have for generating energy and clearing the mind. When you engage in regular, challenging physical activity, you are not simply burning calories. You are creating a cascade of positive chemical reactions. You are flushing your system of stress hormones like cortisol. You are releasing endorphins that elevate your mood. You are stimulating the production of BDNF, a protein that acts like Miracle-Gro for your brain cells, helping you learn faster and think more clearly. Movement is the keystone habit. It is the act that locks all other positive habits into place. When you move your body, you naturally want to fuel it better. When you move your body, you sleep more deeply. Do not see exercise as something you have to do. See it as a strategic advantage you get to use every single day. The third pillar of vitality is recovery. This is the most sacrificed pillar in our culture of relentless hustle. We are taught to see rest as a sign of weakness. The architect knows that rest is a sign of wisdom. The master woodcutter does not prove his dedication by chopping wood for 18 hours with a dull axe. He proves his wisdom by taking the time to sharpen the axe. Your sleep and your moments of rest are the sharpening of your axe. Sleep is not a state of shutting down. It is an active, critical period of repair, consolidation, and growth. It is when your body mends torn muscle fibers. It is when your brain flushes out toxins. It is when you transfer the lessons of the day from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. To consistently cheat your sleep is to deliberately choose to operate with a dull mind, a weakened body, and a frayed emotional state. These three, fuel, movement, and recovery, are the legs of the stool upon which your physical energy rests. Now let us turn our attention to the command center, the inner citadel, the mind. To care for your mind is to become the vigilant gardener of your own inner world. A garden left to its own devices will be effortlessly overrun by weeds. So too will your mind, if left unattended, be overrun by the weeds of worry, doubt, and negativity. The architect's work is daily conscious cultivation. The first duty of the gardener is to stand guard at the gate. You have the absolute authority to decide what you allow to enter your mind. Every news article you read, every social media feed you scroll, every conversation you entertain, these are seeds. Are you allowing seeds of fear, outrage, and comparison to be planted in your fertile soil day after day? If so, do not be surprised when you harvest a crop of anxiety and discontent. The architect is ruthlessly selective. They choose inputs that are empowering, educational, and inspiring. They protect their mental environment as fiercely as they would protect their home. The second duty is to pull the weeds. No matter how well you guard the gate, some weeds will sprout. These are the negative thought patterns that are part of the human software. There is the weed of worry. Worry is the misuse of your imagination. It is the act of meditating on what you do not want. It is a prayer for chaos. The antidote to worry is not positive thinking, it is presence in action. You pull the mind out of the imagined catastrophic future and back into the present moment. And you take one small, productive step action is the enemy of worry. There is the weed of comparison. In our hyper-connected world, this weed grows rampant. Comparison is the thief of joy. Looking at the curated highlight reel of another person's life and comparing it to the behind-the-scenes reality of your own is a recipe for perpetual dissatisfaction. The architect knows the only healthy comparison is the person you were yesterday versus the person you are today. That is the only metric that matters. The final duty of the gardener is to proactively plant and nurture the seeds you wish to grow. You must plant the seed of gratitude. Gratitude is not a passive response to good fortune. It is an active practice of the mind. It is the discipline of scanning your world right now for what is good. A mind filled with gratitude has no room for self-pity. It is a mental muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets, and the more you will find to be grateful for. You must plant the seed of stillness. In a world of constant noise and stimulation, silence is a form of power. The practice of mindfulness or meditation is not about emptying your mind. It is about learning to observe your thoughts without being controlled by them. It is the act of creating a small space between a stimulus and your response. In that space lies your freedom, your power to choose, and your ability to act with intention. You see, the care of the mind and body is the very foundation of your ability to execute on every other commitment. A rested, energized body and a clear, focused mind find it far easier to practice the discipline and consistency that our next commitment will demand. Discipline is not just a matter of willpower, it is a matter of capacity. And your capacity is determined by your health. To prioritize your health is not a selfish act, it is the ultimate act of responsibility. You owe it to your goals, to your dreams, to your family, to your purpose, to bring the best, most vital, and most capable version of yourself to the table each day. So my challenge to you is this: today, not tomorrow, make one small, simple choice that honors this commitment. Drink a glass of water instead of a soda. Take a 10-minute walk. Take 3 deep, conscious breaths before your next meeting. Write down one thing you are grateful for before you sleep. These are the first acts of the master musician tuning their priceless instrument. They are the first acts of the architect, laying a foundation so strong it can support any dream. We have now covered the foundational commitments, the internal architecture of the person you are becoming. This is deep and meaningful work, and it is a natural place for us to pause and take a breath. As you reflect on these principles, if you feel a resonance with this philosophy of life design, if you believe in the power of these commitments to forge your best future, then I invite you to become a permanent member of this community of architects. Take a moment right now to subscribe to this channel. It is more than just a click. It is a small, powerful commitment to your own growth. It ensures you will not miss the remaining pillars of this blueprint. We have much more to build together. Now, let us continue the work. In our last discussion, we committed to the most foundational of all strategic assets, our own physical and mental health. We acknowledged that our mind and body are the one and only instrument we will ever be given to play the symphony of our lives. We have committed to tuning this instrument, to fueling it with intention, and to protecting it with vigilance. Now, with our instrument in peak condition, with our energy cultivated and our mind clear, we arrive at the point of execution. We have the blueprint of our goals. We have the knowledge from our self-education. We have the mindset to face challenges. We have a plan for our time. But a blueprint, no matter how brilliant, does not build a house. Knowledge does not by itself produce a skill. A plan does not by itself create progress. There is a necessary force, an activating energy, that must be applied to transform our intentions into reality. This brings us to our 6th and profoundly powerful commitment. It is the engine of all creation. It is the force that turns the intangible vision into a tangible result. We are here to discuss the commitment to master discipline and consistency. Let us begin by dissecting the first of these twins, discipline. And to truly understand it, we must first liberate ourselves from one of the most pervasive and damaging myths in our culture, the myth of motivation. We are a society addicted to motivation. We wait for a feeling. We seek a spark of inspiration to propel us into action. We watch a video, attend a seminar, or listen to a song, and we feel a rush of energy. We feel in that moment that we can do anything. But what is motivation? It is a feeling, an emotion, a fleeting chemical reaction. It is a wonderful guest, but a terrible master. It is a fair weather friend that is with you on the sunny days, but abandons you at the first sign of a storm. To build your life on the foundation of motivation is to build your house on the shifting sands of your own emotional state. It is a blueprint for failure. Discipline is a different force entirely. Discipline is not a feeling. It is a commitment. It is not an emotion. It is a structure. Discipline is the all-weather companion that you can rely on day in and day out. It is the choice to do what you know you must do long after the mood you set it in has left. The amateur waits to feel inspired. The professional, the architect, simply does the work. At its core, what is discipline? It is the highest form of self-respect. It is the act of making a promise to your future self and then honoring that promise with your actions today. Each time you keep a promise to yourself to wake up early, to do the workout, to make the call, you build trust in yourself. You cast a vote for an identity of a person who is reliable, who can be counted on. Each time you break a promise to yourself, you cast a vote for an identity of a person whose word means little, even to themselves. Over time, these votes accumulate and forge the iron of your character. Discipline is not a trait you are born with. It is a muscle. And you build it the same way you build any other muscle, through progressive resistance. You do not start by trying to lift the heaviest weight. You start with small, manageable acts, what we can call micro-discipline. You build the muscle of discipline by making your bed every morning, starting your day with a victory. You build it by following the 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, you do it immediately. You build it by finishing what you start, even a glass of water. These acts are not about the outcome, they are about the training. They are the daily steps that strengthen your character, preparing you for the heavier weights of your great ambition. And as you engage in this training, you will be confronted with a fundamental choice that life offers every single person. We must all suffer one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. There is no third option. The pain of discipline weighs ounces. It is the temporary discomfort of the workout. It is the slight inconvenience of saving money. It is the momentary strain of doing the difficult, important work. The pain of regret weighs tons. It is the crushing, lifelong burden of looking back and knowing you could have been more. It is the hollow ache of squandered potential. It is the heavy ghost of the life you failed to live. The architect of a designed life understands this equation. And they choose the pain of discipline every single time because they know it is the price of admission for a life of freedom and fulfillment. Now, let us turn to discipline's inseparable twin, consistency. If discipline is the choice you make in this moment, consistency is the chain of those choices linked together over time. Discipline is the act of laying one perfect brick. Consistency is the act of laying one perfect brick every single day until you have built a cathedral. Consistency is the quiet, unglamorous, and unstoppable force that creates all miracles. To understand its power, we must embrace the most profound philosophy of achievement there is, the philosophy of the farmer. The farmer does not live in a world of instant gratification. The farmer lives in a world of process, of seasons, of faith. The farmer's work begins in the spring. This is the season of faith. They must prepare the soil, your philosophy. They must plant the seed, your goals. They do this work with no immediate evidence of a result. They act on faith in a law of nature they cannot see. Then comes the summer. This is the season of diligent, relentless labor. This is the heart of consistency. The farmer must show up every single day to tend to the crop. They must pull the weeds of mediocrity. They must provide the water of self-education. They must protect the crop from the pests of toxic influences. The work is hard. It is repetitive. The harvest is still nowhere in sight. This is where most people quit. But the farmer persists. They understand that the work of summer is non-negotiable. And because they were faithful in the spring and diligent in the summer, the fall inevitably arrives. This is the season of harvest. The results, which were invisible for so long, finally manifest. The harvest is not a matter of luck. It is the natural and predictable consequence of consistent daily effort. The law of sowing and reaping is never broken. Behind this philosophy lies the mathematical engine of consistency, the compound effect. This is the principle that small, smart choices compounded by consistency over time lead to radical, explosive results. Our brains have a hard time grasping this because we think in linear terms. But success is not linear, it is exponential. Imagine a path that is almost flat for a very long time. That is the beginning of any new consistent habit. You go to the gym for a month, you see almost no change. You save a small amount of money for a year, you are not yet wealthy. You read 10 pages a day for a few months, you are not yet a genius. This long, flat period is the valley of disappointment. It is where your results do not yet match your expectations. This valley is where the vast majority of dreams die. People quit believing their efforts are not working. But the architect, like the farmer, has faith in the unseen growth beneath the surface. They continue the small daily disciplines. And then, at some point, they hit the inflection point. And the curve of their progress, which was almost flat, suddenly sweeps dramatically upward. This is the magic of compounding. Your health, your wealth, your knowledge, your relationships, they are all a product of this invisible, powerful law. And now we see how this pillar is not just a part of the blueprint, it is the activating force for the entire design. It is the discipline to choose your actions based on your goals, not your moods. It is the consistency to engage in self-education every single day. It is the discipline to face challenges when you would rather retreat. It is the consistency with which you master your time and prioritize your health. And it is the discipline you will need for our next commitment. It is the discipline to set boundaries, to have difficult conversations, and to protect your energy from those who would drain it, which is the work of eliminating toxic influences. The ultimate purpose of mastering discipline and consistency is not just about what you will achieve, it is about who you will become. Character is not forged in the moments of grand inspiration. Character is forged in the small, quiet, daily choices. It is the sum of the promises you keep to yourself. So my challenge to you is this: do not try to become the most disciplined person in the world tomorrow. That is the path of intensity, not consistency. Instead, choose one. Choose one small micro-discipline that you will commit to for the next 7 days without fail. Lay one brick, and then tomorrow, lay another. This is how the bridge to your future is built. This is how the blueprint becomes a reality. It is not magic. It is the simple, profound, and unstoppable power of doing the right thing day after day. That is the work. That is the path. That is the commitment. In our work together, we have laid down the powerful internal cornerstones of a life by design. We have committed to our goals, to our education, to facing challenges with courage. We have begun the work of mastering our time, our health, and the engine of discipline and consistency. We have, in essence, begun to cultivate a magnificent inner garden. We have planted the seeds of our ambitions in the rich soil of our philosophy. We are tending to them with the water of daily effort. But any master gardener will tell you a profound truth. The most diligent work inside the garden can be utterly destroyed by a contaminated environment outside of it. You can have the best seeds and the strongest work ethic, but if the very air is polluted, if the water source is poisoned, and if pests are constantly crawling over the fence, what kind of harvest can you truly expect? This brings us to our seventh and profoundly strategic commitment. It is the commitment of protection, of curation, and of courage. It is the act of becoming the vigilant gatekeeper of your own life. You must eliminate toxic influences. To begin, we must understand a great and invisible law of the universe. You are a product of your environment. You are not a sealed entity, separate from the world around you. You are a porous being, constantly absorbing the attitudes, the beliefs, the standards, and the energy of your surroundings. If you do not consciously and deliberately choose your environment will unconsciously and automatically choose you. And in doing so, it will shape your destiny. This is the law of association, and it is most famously expressed in this simple but devastatingly accurate statement. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This is not a mere platitude. It is a mathematical certainty. Let us dissect what precisely gets averaged. First, their health becomes your health. If your 5 closest associates live on a diet of fast food and complaints, that will become your new normal. If they prioritize movement, vitality, and energy, you will be naturally pulled in that direction. Second, their income becomes your income. Or more accurately, their attitude toward money and ambition becomes your own. If they believe that wealth is evil or that ambition is greedy, their limiting beliefs will become the ceiling on your own financial potential. If they are readers, learners, and investors who speak of possibility, your own financial thermostat will be recalibrated to a higher temperature. Third, their attitude becomes your attitude. If your circle is filled with cynics, with complainers, with people who blame the world for their problems, that language of victimhood will become your native tongue. If you are surrounded by optimists, by people who take radical responsibility, who speak of solutions, not problems, that becomes the default setting of your own mind. The quality of your life 5 years from now can be predicted with startling accuracy by simply looking at the quality of the people you choose to spend your time with today. Therefore, the work of the architect is to become a masterful curator of their personal circle. This is not an act of arrogance, of thinking you are better than anyone else. It is an act of profound self-respect. It is the understanding that you cannot expect a world-class life if you are marinating in a third-rate environment. So, how do we begin this work? We must first learn to identify toxicity, which is not always obvious. Toxicity is not always loud and abusive. Often it is subtle, a slow-acting poison. Let us identify the common archetypes of toxic influences. First, there is the dream stealer. This is the cynic, the pragmatist who has weaponized their own failed ambitions. You come to them with a spark of a new idea, a bold goal, and they immediately extinguish it with the cold water of their realism. They say, "That'll never work," or "Be careful, that's very risky." What they are really saying is, "I was too afraid to try, and your courage is making me uncomfortable." They are not protecting you, they are protecting their own mediocrity. Second, there is the energy vampire. This is the chronic complainer, the perpetual victim. Their primary mode of connection is to use you as an emotional dumping ground for their endless stream of problems and grievances. They are not seeking solutions, they are seeking an audience. After an interaction with them, you feel tired, drained, and heavy. They have literally fed on your positive energy, leaving you depleted for your own important work. Third, there is the anchor. This can be the most difficult to manage because this person often cares for you. They are the friend or family member who loves the old you. Your commitment to growth, to changing your habits and raising your standards is a direct threat to the comfort of their own stagnation. So they will try to pull you back, often with subtle jokes or comments like, "You've changed," or "You're no fun anymore." They are the anchor to a past version of yourself that you have decided to sail away from. But toxic influences are not just people. In our modern world, we must be vigilant against toxic information. Your news feed, your social media scroll, this is an environment. Is your information diet a healthy one, filled with knowledge, inspiration, and strategies for growth? Or is it a junk food diet of outrage, fear-mongering, celebrity gossip, and carefully curated images designed to make you feel inadequate? This constant stream of negativity and comparison is a poison to your mental garden. And we must consider our toxic physical environments. A cluttered, chaotic home or workspace creates a cluttered, chaotic mind. Your environment is a mirror of your internal state and also a cause of it. An architect cannot do their best work on a messy, disorganized drafting table. Once we have identified these sources of toxicity, we must have the courage to act. This is the architect's strategy for curation, and it involves 3 levels of association. The first and most courageous is disassociation. This is the deliberate act of cutting ties. It is walking away from the friend who is a dream stealer. It is ending the relationship that is a constant source of drama. This is difficult. You will be accused of being selfish. But let me be clear, you are not responsible for another person's happiness. You are responsible for your own. To remain in a deeply toxic relationship out of a sense of obligation is to set both yourself and the other person on fire to keep them warm. It is an act of self-betrayal. The second level is limited association. There are people we cannot or choose not to fully remove from our lives: a family member, a co-worker. Here, the strategy is to build a fence, not a wall. You limit the time you spend with them. You consciously manage the topics of conversation. When they turn to their familiar script of complaining or gossip, you politely refuse to engage. You can say, "I'd rather not talk about that. Let's talk about something more positive." You are managing the interaction to protect your own energy. The third and most exciting level is expanded association. You cannot simply create a vacuum. You must proactively fill your life with the right influences. This is the act of seeking out your future. Find a mentor, join a group, online or in person, of people who are committed to the same goals as you. Attend seminars. Build a board of directors for your life, a circle of people whose wisdom, attitude, and success you admire. Actively seek to become the average of a better 5 people. This entire commitment to eliminating toxic influences is the practical application of our previous commitments. It takes immense discipline to set these boundaries and walk away. It is the ultimate act of prioritizing your mental and physical health as you are protecting your instrument from harm. And this commitment is the necessary preparation for our next one. Because one of the most common areas where toxic influences can keep us stuck is in our finances, through bad advice, through the pressure to keep up, through the emotional turmoil that leads to poor decisions. To build a fortress against this, the architect must become a master of their own resources. This requires mastering your financial discipline. The work of curating your environment is the work of a gatekeeper. You are the sole guardian of your mind, your time, and your energy. These are your most sacred assets. To allow them to be contaminated by toxic influences is to abdicate your role as the architect of your life. This is not about building walls to keep the world out. It is about building a well-tended, vibrant garden so that you have something of immense value, strength, wisdom, and positivity to offer the world. So my challenge to you is this. Today, conduct an honest audit. Identify one influence in your life, a person, a media source, a habit that is consistently draining you, and make one small, decisive choice to limit its access to your world. Unfollow the account, decline the invitation, change the subject. This is your first act as the vigilant gatekeeper. It is a declaration that your peace is not negotiable and your potential is not for sale. It is a profound act of self-respect. In our last discussion, we made the courageous commitment to become the vigilant gatekeepers of our own lives. We decided to eliminate toxic influences, to protect our inner garden from the external forces of negativity, doubt, and mediocrity. This is the crucial work of protecting your energy and your focus. But there is one influence, one force, that for many people is the most toxic and stressful of all. It is a force that can dictate where you live, what you do, and how much freedom you possess. It is the unspoken tyrant that governs the lives of those who have not learned to command it. That force is money. This brings us to our 8th and profoundly liberating commitment. It is the commitment that transforms a source of anxiety into a tool of creation. You must master your financial discipline. Let us begin by changing our entire philosophy of money. In our culture, people tend to have one of 2 broken relationships with it. Some worship it, making it the sole purpose of their existence, sacrificing their health, their relationships, and their integrity on its altar. They become a slave to acquiring it. Others despise it. They believe it is the root of all evil, that wanting it is greedy, and that there is something noble in having little of it. They too are its slaves, for their lack of it controls their every decision and limits their ability to contribute. The architect of a designed life rejects both of these flawed philosophies. The architect understands a simple truth. Money is a tool. It is a powerful, amoral servant. It is a form of stored energy and value. Like a hammer, it can be used to build a beautiful home, or it can be used to tear one down. The tool itself is not good or evil. The character and the skill of the person wielding it determines its outcome. Your work is to become a masterful, wise, and principled wielder of this tool. And the ultimate goal of mastering this tool is not to accumulate piles of paper for the sake of it. The ultimate goal is to buy one thing that is priceless: freedom. The freedom to walk away from a job that is crushing your spirit, the freedom to take advantage of an opportunity, the freedom to provide the best for your family, the freedom from the quiet, persistent, soul-crushing anxiety of financial pressure, and the freedom to be extraordinarily generous. This is the noble purpose of financial discipline. It is not about restriction, it is about liberation. Now, to become the master of this tool, we must first understand the great financial misunderstanding that keeps most people trapped: the difference between income and wealth. A high income does not make you wealthy. Your income is what you earn. Your wealth is what you keep and what you grow. I have seen people who earn a fortune every year, yet are perpetually broke, living under a mountain of debt from a lifestyle they cannot afford. And I have seen people with a modest, steady income who, through years of quiet discipline, have built astonishing wealth. The first group is a slave to their income. The second group is a master of their resources. The architect's journey to financial freedom is built on two foundational pillars. The first is the art of the surplus. The second is the art of multiplication. Let us first address the art of the surplus. This is the non-negotiable law upon which all wealth is built. It is the simple but not easy practice of spending less than you earn. It does not matter if you earn $10,000 a year or $10 million a year. If you spend more than you earn, you are on a path to financial ruin. If you consistently maintain a surplus, a gap between your income and your expenses, you are on a path to financial freedom. It is that simple. To achieve this, you must reject the cultural pressure to keep up with the Joneses. The truth is, the Joneses are likely drowning in debt. You must have the discipline to live for your own future, not for the approval of your neighbors. The primary tool for creating a surplus is a spending plan. Let us not call it a budget. That word feels like a cage or restriction. A spending plan is not a cage, it is a map. It is an act of proactive design. It is you telling your money where to go instead of waking up at the end of the month and wondering where it went. The process is simple. You track your income, you track your expenses, and you create a plan to ensure there is a gap between the two. The key is not just to have a surplus, but to have a plan for that surplus. A powerful philosophy for this is what we can call the 7-0-1-0-1-0-1-0 formula. Out of your take-home pay, you learn to live on 70%. This covers your housing, your food, your transportation, your lifestyle. If you cannot live on 70% of your income right now, your primary goal is to either reduce your lifestyle or increase your income until you can. The next 10% is for your active capital. This is your investment money. This is the portion you put to work in the marketplace, in your business, in assets that have the potential to grow and build your fortune. This is your golden goose that you must never eat. The next 10% is for your passive capital. This is for your long-term savings, your emergency fund, your security. This is the money that provides you with peace of mind. And the final 10% is for giving, for charity, for your community, for helping others. Why is this part of a financial discipline plan? Because the act of giving sends a powerful signal to your subconscious mind. It breaks the grip of a scarcity mindset. It affirms that you are not a person of lack, but a person of abundance, a channel through which resources can flow. This simple plan, 7-0-1-0-1-0-1-0, is a complete philosophy for managing your resources. Now, once you have mastered the art of the surplus, you must move to the second and more exciting pillar, the art of multiplication. It is not enough to just save money. A surplus that sits idle will lose its value to inflation. The architect must learn how to make their money work for them. The first principle of multiplication is to harness what has been called the eighth wonder of the world, the power of compound interest. This is the process of your money earning money, and then that money earning more money. It is a quiet, invisible force that, given enough time, can turn a small, consistent investment into a fortune. The key to unlocking this power is to start early and be consistent. Even a small amount of money invested consistently from a young age can grow to be far more than a large sum invested much later in life. You must have the faith and the discipline to let your investments grow over decades. The second principle of multiplication is to pay yourself first. This is a profound shift in mindset. Most people earn their money, pay all their bills and expenses, and then hope there is something left over to save. The architect does the exact opposite. The moment you receive your income, the very first bill you pay is to your future self. You automate the transfer of your 10% for active capital and 10% for passive capital into their respective accounts. You do this before you pay the rent, before you buy groceries, before you do anything else. The rest of your money is then available for your lifestyle. This single habit guarantees that your future is always the top priority. The third principle of multiplication is to wage war on bad debt. We must distinguish between two types of debt. There is good debt, which is borrowing money to acquire an asset that is likely to increase in value, like a sensible mortgage or a business loan. And then there is bad debt, high interest, consumer debt, credit card debt, used to buy depreciating assets and lifestyle items. This kind of debt is a cancer on your financial health. The interest payments are a thief, stealing your future income to pay for your past consumption. The architect is disciplined. They avoid bad debt like the plague, and if they have it, they create a focused, aggressive plan to eliminate it as quickly as possible. You see, this entire commitment to financial discipline is a direct application of the pillars we have already built. It requires the discipline to stick to your spending plan when temptation arises. It requires the courage to live differently from the crowd. It requires self-education to learn the basics of investing. It requires you to cut out toxic influences who pressure you to be financially irresponsible. And this brings us to the gateway of our final commitment. The entire architecture of financial discipline, living on less than you earn, avoiding debt, investing for the future, rests on your ability to execute one small, powerful action over and over again. It is the action that protects your plan from the thousands of temptations the world will throw at you. It is the mastery of the most financially potent word in the architect's vocabulary, and that word is no. This requires you to learn the power of a strategic no. To master your finances is to become a wise and faithful steward of the resources that flow through your life. It is not a selfish pursuit. The more financially strong you become, the more you can provide for your family, the more you can contribute to your community, and the more you can focus your energy on your great purpose without the constant distraction of financial stress. So my challenge to you is a simple one. Do not try to overhaul your entire financial life tomorrow. Start with the first essential step of all architects. Gather the data. For the next 7 days, simply track every single dollar you spend. Do not judge it. Do not change it yet. Just observe. This simple act of awareness is the first step in taking control. It is the first act of a person who has decided to become the master of their money, not its slave. In our work together, we have been on a journey of construction. We have laid down the grand pillars of a life by design, from the vision of our goals to the bedrock of our health, from the engine of discipline to the fortress of financial wisdom. We have committed to becoming the architects of our own lives. But an architect knows that a masterpiece is created not just by what you add to it, but also by what you leave out. A sculptor creates the statue by chipping away the non-essential stone. A great writer creates a powerful sentence by deleting the unnecessary words. This brings us to our ninth and final commitment. It is the most subtle, yet perhaps the most powerful, strategic tool in the architect's entire toolkit. It is the skill that protects your focus, guards your energy, and gives your commitments their true power. We are here to discuss the commitment to learn the power of a strategic no. In a world of infinite choices, endless requests, and constant distraction, the word no is not a negative word. It is not a word of rejection. It is the most powerful creative word you possess. For it is the word that clears the space for your most important work to be done. Before we can learn how to use this tool, we must first dissect the powerful forces that prevent us from doing so. We must understand the anatomy of what we can call the disease to please. Why is a two-letter word so difficult for so many of us to say? The first reason is a deep primal one, the fear of disappointing others. We are social creatures wired for connection and belonging. In our ancient past, being cast out of the tribe was a death sentence. That ancient fear still echoes in our modern minds. We fear that saying no will lead to disapproval, to being disliked, to damaging a relationship. And so we often say a weak, resentful yes to avoid the temporary discomfort of a clean, honest no. The second reason is the fear of conflict. Many of us are non-confrontational by nature. We would rather carry the heavy, long-term burden of an unwanted commitment than face the short-term discomfort of a potentially awkward conversation. We sacrifice our own peace of mind on the altar of avoiding a moment of friction. The third reason is the fear of missing out. This is a particularly modern affliction. We are bombarded with the highlight reels of others' lives, and we become terrified that if we say no to an invitation or an opportunity, we might miss out on the one magical connection or the one big break. This fear leads us to overcommit, to spread ourselves thin, and to live a life that is wide but incredibly shallow. And the fourth reason is the ego's desire to be the hero, the capable one. We want to be seen as helpful, as reliable, as the person who can do it all. Our yes is often a subconscious attempt to prove our own value and importance. These fears conspire to make us say yes by default. And a life of default yeses is a life of distraction, of burnout, and of living out other people's agendas. The architect must break free. And it begins with a profound philosophical reframe. You must understand this: every no you utter is a powerful yes to something more important. When you say no to working late on a non-essential task, you are saying yes to your family, to your rest, to your well-being. When you say no to a mindless distraction on your phone, you are saying yes to the deep, focused work required to achieve your goals. When you say no to a financial impulse, you are saying yes to your long-term financial freedom. When you say no to a mediocre opportunity, you are making space for a great one to arrive. Your no is not an act of closing a door. It is the act of guarding the door to the sacred space where your most important priorities live. A person who cannot say no effectively has no real priorities. Their yes is meaningless because it is given to everything. It is only by saying no to the trivial that your yes to the vital gains its true power and integrity. Furthermore, a strategic no is an act of profound respect. A clear, honest no offered up front is infinitely more respectful than a reluctant, resentful yes that leads to a poor performance, a missed deadline, or a broken promise. It respects the other person enough to give them a true answer, and it respects yourself enough to honor your own capacity and commitments. So, how do we practice this? How do we wield this tool with grace and skill? We must learn to say no in 4 key arenas of our lives. The first is saying no to others' agendas. This is the most common challenge. When you are asked to do something that does not align with your priorities, you do not need a long, elaborate excuse. A simple, polite, and firm response is all that is needed. Thank you for thinking of me, but I'm afraid I can't commit to that right now as my focus is on another project. Or, I appreciate the invitation, but I'll have to pass this time. You do not need to over-explain. Your no is a complete sentence. The second arena is saying no to information. You must become a ruthless curator of your information diet. In an age of information overload, your focus is your fortune. This means saying no to the endless anxiety-inducing news cycle. Saying no to the social media feeds that leave you feeling drained or envious. Saying no to the gossip and the noise. Every act of unfollowing, unsubscribing, or turning off notifications is a powerful no that protects your mental clarity. The third arena is saying no to your own impulses. This is the internal no. This is the voice of your own discipline. It is the no to the snooze button, the no to the unhealthy food, the no to the urge to procrastinate, the no to the voice of self-doubt. Every other no you say to the external world is powered by your ability to first say no to the weaker parts of yourself. This is the ultimate practice of self-mastery. And the fourth and most advanced arena is saying no to good opportunities. This is what separates the merely successful from the truly exceptional. As you become more successful, you will be presented with more and more opportunities. Many of them will be good. The temptation is to say yes to all of them, But the master architect understands that every yes consumes a portion of their most finite resources, time and focus. They know that to build their great cathedral, they cannot also be building a dozen other nice-looking chapels. They have the wisdom and the courage to say no to many good opportunities so they can give their entire undivided energy to the few truly great ones. You see, this final commitment is not just another pillar. It is the guardian that protects the integrity of the entire structure we have designed. It is the no that protects your goals from being derailed by distraction. It is the no that protects your time from being squandered. It is the no that protects your health from the burnout of overcommitment. It is the no that protects your financial discipline from impulsive spending. It is the very words you use to enforce the boundaries needed to eliminate toxic influences. Without a disciplined no, all your other commitments will eventually be eroded by the relentless demands of the world. The ultimate purpose of mastering no is not to become a negative, closed off, or unhelpful person. It is the exact opposite. The purpose of mastering no is to clear your life of the clutter, the obligations, and the distractions, so that when you find that one person, that one project, that one cause that aligns with your deepest purpose, you can turn to it, look it in the eye, and give it the most powerful, focused, and unconditional yes of your life. That is freedom. That is power. That is the life of the architect. So my challenge to you is this. In the next 24 hours, you will be presented with a choice, a request, an invitation, a distraction. And in that moment, I want you to pause. And before you give your default yes, ask yourself, by saying yes to this, what am I implicitly saying no to? And if the trade-off is not worth it, I challenge you to practice a kind, firm, and strategic no. It will feel uncomfortable at first, but it is the discomfort of a muscle being used for the first time. It is the discomfort of taking back control. It is the first act of a person who has decided that their life will be defined not by the random agendas of the world, but by the power of their own intentional choice. We have traveled a great distance together on this journey of design. We began with an invitation to awaken from the slumber of a life by default and to embrace the powerful, responsible role of the architect of your own experience. We have since laid down the 9 fundamental commitments, the great pillars upon which a life of significance is built. We have examined the blueprints of our own potential. We have confronted the internal and external forces that seek to keep us small. We have assembled the tools of the master builder. And now we find ourselves here at the end of our time together. But let me be unequivocally clear. This is not the end of the journey. This is not the finish line. What we have reached together is something far more important, far more exciting. We have reached the true starting line. The purpose of this entire masterclass was not to provide you with a final destination. It was to provide you with a compass and a set of navigational skills. The goal was not to hand you a completed masterpiece. It was to reintroduce you to the artist, the sculptor, the architect that has been lying dormant within you all along. The work does not end here. The work begins here. This final session is about the architect's promise. And it is not a promise that I make to you. It is the promise that you must now, with clarity and conviction, make to yourself. It is the promise to take this blueprint, these principles, and to breathe life into them with your daily actions. To do this, we must first see how these 9 commitments are not a mere checklist, but a living, breathing, integrated system. They are not 9 separate pillars, but a magnificent, interconnected symphony of a well-lived life. Let us see this symphony in motion. It begins with the visionary section, the composer of your life. This is where the music is written. This is the harmony between your goals and your self-education. Your ambitious goals are the musical score, the grand, compelling vision of the masterpiece you intend to create. But a score is silent without a skilled musician. Your commitment to lifelong self-education is the daily practice, the endless rehearsal, the honing of your craft so that you become the virtuoso capable of playing that magnificent score. One without the other is incomplete. A great goal without the skills to achieve it is a frustrating dream. Great skills without a worthy goal to apply them to is a tragic waste of potential. The architect is both the composer and the musician. Then comes the resilience section, the unshakable foundation of your character. This is the deep, resonant harmony of courage, health, and letting go of the past. Your health, both physical and mental, is the very instrument upon which your life's music is played. To neglect it is to try and play a symphony on a broken violin. Your commitment to letting go of the past is the act of tuning that instrument, of clearing it of the old discordant notes of regret and resentment so that it can play the music of today with clarity. And your courage is the willingness to step onto the stage in front of the world and play your music even when your hands are shaking. This is the inner strength, the quiet fortitude that allows you to perform under pressure. Next, we have the execution section, the conductor bringing the music to life. This is the powerful, rhythmic interplay of time mastery, discipline, consistency, and the power of no. Your mastery of time is your command of the tempo, ensuring that the most important movements of your symphony are given the space and attention they deserve. Your discipline is the unwavering hand of the conductor, keeping every section in perfect time, especially when the music becomes difficult. Your consistency is the rhythm itself, the steady, daily beat that transforms a collection of notes into a powerful, flowing masterpiece. And your strategic no is the conductor's most important tool, the decision of what not to play, which silent rests give the powerful notes their true meaning and impact. And finally, we have the curation section, which is the concert hall itself. This is the commitment to eliminate toxic influences. An architect knows that the most beautiful symphony can be ruined by a terrible acoustic environment. You must curate your world, ensuring that the hall you play in is worthy of the music you are creating. You must protect your performance from the hecklers, the cynics, and the distracting noise of a world that is not aligned with your art. When you see these commitments not as a list, but as a living, breathing orchestra, you begin to understand the true nature of a designed life. It is a life of profound harmony, where your vision, your character, and your actions are all playing the same beautiful song. To help you navigate this lifelong performance, allow me to leave you with one final master metaphor, the seasons of life. Your life, like the year, will not be a single, unchanging season of sunshine and ease. It will be a series of cycles. The wise architect does not resist the seasons. They understand them and learn to act in accordance with their nature. There will be winter. These are the seasons of your life for rest, reflection, and preparation. Winter is when the world seems barren, when opportunities are scarce, when you may face setbacks or loss. The drifter despairs in the winter, believing the cold will last forever. But the architect understands the purpose of winter. This is not the time for planting. This is the time to be in the library, to study your blueprints, your philosophy, and your goals. It is the time to sharpen your tools through self-education. It is the time to build your inner strength, to care for your health, so that when the spring comes, you are not depleted, but profoundly ready. Do not curse the winter, use the winter. Then, inevitably, spring will arrive. This is the season of opportunity. The ground thaws, new chances emerge, a new project, a new relationship, a new idea. This is a season for decisive action. The architect, having planned all winter, recognizes the opportunity and plants their seeds with discipline and purpose. They take the calculated risk. They know the window of spring is precious and must be seized. After spring comes summer. This is the season of diligent, relentless cultivation. This is the most demanding season. The sun is hot, the work is hard, and the harvest is still not yet visible. In the summer, you must protect your growing crops. You must pull the weeds of mediocrity and distraction every single day. You must fight off the pests of negativity and your own self-doubt. You must show up with unwavering consistency to water and nurture what you have planted. The summer will test your resolve. It is the season that forges your character. And if you have been wise in the winter, active in the spring, and diligent in the summer, then the fall will surely come. This is the season of harvest, of results. You finally reap the rewards of your consistent, disciplined efforts. This is a time for profound gratitude and celebration, but it is also a time of responsibility. You must wisely gather your harvest and use a portion of it to prepare for the next inevitable winter. You do not become complacent in the fall, you become wise. You understand that the harvest of today was born from the labors of all the seasons that came before it. Learn to recognize the season you are in and act accordingly. This is the rhythm of a sustainable, successful, and resilient life. And so, we arrive at the end of our beginning. We have explored the philosophy, the pillars, the mindset, and the seasons of a life by design. The knowledge is now yours. But knowledge that is not translated into action is the ultimate tragedy. This brings us to the final fundamental choice. The world is divided into two groups of people, the spectators and the participants. The spectators fill the great stadium of life. They have a perfect view of the game. They become experts in theory. They analyze the players' moves. They critique their mistakes. They know with absolute certainty how the game should be played. But they never feel the sweat on their brow. They never feel the ache in their muscles. They never feel the sting of defeat or the indescribable thrill of victory. Their life is a second-hand experience. It is safe, clean, and utterly unlived. Then there are the participants. They are the ones on the field. They are messy, scarred, and imperfect. They get knocked down. They make mistakes. They risk public failure and private disappointment. But they are the ones who are truly alive. They are the ones who know the profound joy of striving, of contributing, of leaving everything they have on the field. They are the ones whose lives are a testament to the power of the human spirit. All of our time together has been a single, sustained invitation for you to leave the spectator seats, to walk down the steps, and to step onto the field of your own life. And now we come to the final call to action. It is the architect's promise, the promise you now make to yourself. It is not a promise to be perfect. It is not a promise to never fail. It is the promise to simply begin. The grandest cathedral is not built in a day. It is built one brick at a time. The entire philosophy of a designed life comes down to the quality of your attention and effort in this present moment. It comes down to the next brick. When this screen fades to black, your life as an architect begins. Your first test will not be a great crisis. It will be a small, quiet choice. It will be in the next words you speak. It will be in the choice between the easy distraction and the important task. It will be in the thought you choose to entertain. That is the field of play. My final challenge to you is this. Choose one. Choose one commitment that resonated most deeply with you and make it the theme of the very next action you take. That is the first act of the participant. That is the first brick of your cathedral. The work is not easy, but it is the most worthy work you will ever do. The masterpiece you are building is not just for you. It is for everyone your life will touch. It is the ripple effect of your courage, your discipline, and your example. It is the legacy of your potential, fully realized. You have the blueprint. You have the tools. You are the architect. Now, go, lay the first brick. Thank you for investing your most precious asset, your time, with me on this journey. But our work together does not end here. It is a continuous conversation. If this blueprint has been of value to you, please like this video to share that value with others. And share it with one person you know who is ready to become the architect of their own life. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you can continue to receive the tools and philosophies needed to build your masterpiece. I look forward to continuing this journey with you. Thank you.